All right, this is the third video in a series of 3 videos concerned with fretboard mechanics or understanding the fretboard. Being able to play and understand the fretboard without gaps anywhere on the fretboard. Okay, here is a master fretboard. And this master fretboard has all the natural notes on the fretboard, all the natural notes of C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and so on. No sharps, no flats. It's exactly the same as sitting down at the piano and playing all the white notes. Now, for a guitar player, you can just sit down on the piano and easy peasy and figure that out in no time. But unfortunately, for many guitar players, they don't understand how the fretboard fits together. And so what we're going to do is begin by looking at all of the notes and playing all of the notes with no gaps. All right. So first of all, there are different regions on the fretboard, which can be expressed very simply, as I showed in video 1, by just playing little figures like this. And then in a different region, and then in another region, another, and another. So there's 5 different regions on the fretboard, and in each of those regions can have a chord underneath, right? C, 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 and C. Those 5 chords are C, and expressed with an A form, A, expressed with a G form, expressed with an E form, and D. Spelling C-A-G-E and D, or caged. All right, now let's fill out those gaps that we had in those little lines, right? So now start on the root note and play in this master fretboard. Play the scale that falls underneath your fingers. This is like going through the piano, and just playing what's there. The reason these scale forms fall the way they do, are expressed the way they are, is because we have 4 fingers. If we had 5 fingers, these scale forms will be expressed differently, or if we had 3 fingers or 2 fingers, we would play them differently. But since we have 4 fingers, they're expressed for 4 fingers, and then we move those 4 fingers up 1 fret. And then this makes sense to shift. Okay. There's that chord shape. Right, one more time. And we can say that we're playing these scales vertically, right? Because we're playing them up and down this way. We're not crossing the fretboard this way yet. And this shape. And 1 stretch. Everything falls underneath our fingers with, in this case, just that 1 little stretch. And next, we'll call this 7th position because my finger's on the 7th fret. Everything falls underneath my fingers. As you can see, we're moving up the fretboard, right? At this point, I'm here, starting here, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and so on, right? And just playing what falls underneath my fingers. That's the way the fretboard divides itself. Then I'll play what's underneath my fingers, starting at the octave here on fret 10, and I'm in position 9. Positions, by the way, are named by where your first finger sits. It's pretty simple, straightforward. I had a shift there, I'm sorry. Shift to 10. to 9. When you're playing scales, then to 10. And I shift back. Okay. There's my D chord shape playing a C chord. And then I have a repeat of the first one, right? Except I'm an octave higher now. And then like a C chord shape. And then I'm not suggesting that you necessarily play, a chord that looks like this. I'm just demonstrating, it's a G, it's a G chord shape, right? A chord shape, and then C chord shape, which is repeated at the octave here. Okay, now you've filled in the fretboard, okay? There's no gaps. I've played everything that's there in front of us on that master fretboard. It's like sitting down at the piano and playing every single key all over the keyboard. What's different on the guitar is that I can play the same notes in different places. Right? And that can make it a little bit confusing. And that's why we want to organize the fretboard so it's not confusing. Okay. Now, obviously, each one of these scale forms is movable. Okay? And they're only forms because they fall underneath my 4 fingers. That's what makes them scale forms, right? They're just the most economical way to play to play each of these scales. But each of these scales is movable. So if I take this open scale, for instance, of C, I can move it up, but now I don't have open strings anymore. Right? So in each case, that was D. Then I have, what was that? And then I have E flat. And now I can do that with every scale. C, C sharp, D, and so on, right? I can move up the whole fretboard with all of these scales. Okay, and this is what I want you to try to get a grip on. Listen to this carefully. When I move one scale up, let's say 1 fret, all of these scales move up 1 fret, right? It's not just one scale that moves up, even though I'm not playing the other scales, but they all move up the fretboard like a conveyor belt. If I move up to here, all of those scales move up, right? And actually, it's quite fascinating. If you really dig in, they'll come around and circle back down to the bottom. Okay, they'll just keep it. All of the scales, these scale forms, stay in the same relationship to each other. If you play from a C root, those scales are all C major. If you play from a D root, all the fingerings will be the same, but they'll be called D major. If you start from an E root, all the fingerings will be the same again, except they'll all be E major scales, right? And not wanting to dig too deep, but just for fun, the same thing holds true for all the modes, all the minor scales. Okay, that's it. This is designed to get you over a threshold for those of you who've never quite got there, right? I hope that this is going to open a door and you're going to go, oh, I get it. And please let me know in the comments below, if you had that moment. That would be really great. I've taught for a really long time, and the reason I'm doing this is because I've had so many students that have played for quite a long time that never really understood this. And if you don't understand this, it's a bit like running a race on one foot, right? Okay, and these excerpts are from my book, which is called Scales, I think, and it explains in a very clear and visual fashion how all of this stuff fits together, up and down the fretboard, in minor scales and related major scales, with the background and theory and so on. Okay, that's it for today, and thanks for stopping by, and I hope that I clarified some things for you. I really tried my best. So watch video 1, video 2, and video 3, and maybe that'll straighten out some questions you've had. All right, thanks for stopping by, and see you soon.